old green one.
Yeah.
I bought that. That's my first one, and I sold the 4-wheeler, and I still have that trailer.
Really? Yeah.
I spent
40.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been
A long time.
Yeah, I bought some green 4-wheel drives, at the time, and thought I had to have that 4-wheel drive
Yeah.
And I was just getting off back in the woods and stuff. And really, them 4-wheelers ain't worth a darn. I mean, they help you on some things, but them feet.
Oh yeah.
Them
Work
feet,
a lot better.
Yeah, I tell everybody. I mean, you kill turkeys with your feet or your seat. You're sitting on your tail and being still, or you covering ground. So
that's the way my son, he walks you to death. I go with him, but I huff and puff a lot.
See, we didn't hunt a lot, and the NWTF thing they do in Nashville.
yeah,
Everybody's talking about some guy named Pentecost was the big turkey guy in the turkey game, and I was like, the Pentecost from Heflin?
yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And they said, you know him? I said, well, I don't know him. I know his daughter, and I know that they're from Heflin. I didn't know it was that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And then we was driving. I was riding with Brody, and he said, down there's where they do Woodhaven. And I was like, really?
It's crazy.
See, I'd heard the name Woodhaven from a kid named Jake Spivey.
Yeah.
I played college baseball with him.
Yeah, Jake's a good friend of ours, and his daddy.
His daddy
and his daddy, Michael.
His daddy spoke a lot of you, and
Right.
liked you a lot. And he would bring. They were big. I don't know if they were big turkey hunters, but they were big turkey call practicers. Jake in the dorms was always practicing a mouth call, and you'd be walking down. I can't do it, but you'd hear him yelping or whatever, and he'd say, "Woodhaven, they got the best calls." And I was like, that sounds so familiar, and I never knew that it was.
Nobody realizes that, the best and biggest turkey call, and of course, deer. We're doing deer and everything now too, and it's we're trying to get it to be successful. We got some good deer calls, and but anyway, nobody realizes it's right there in hometown. And we laser engrave Heflin, Alabama on a lot of the wood stuff. So.
And it's not some.
Let's get started before we.
Oh yeah. Well,
We're
we
gonna
are
have
recording.
podcast,
Let me go ahead and introduce y'all to our guest for today, episode 8. We'd like to welcome you back. Today we have with us the biggest guy in the turkey game right now, and the turkey call game right now, Mike Pentecost from Woodhaven Custom Calls in Heflin, Alabama. Just in the 10 minutes that we've been here talking with him, I've already gained a lot of knowledge and a lot of things I didn't know. We've kind of talked about that for the last 2 or 3 minutes, and we're going to continue talking about that. But yeah, I didn't realize that y'all were, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful once you get in your building, but it's a humble little warehouse building down in a hole in the middle of Heflin, and I never understood that. Like, I never knew that was there.
People just don't realize that the biggest turkey call company, and the quality that comes out of there, and the integrity of a person, the values of a man and his integrity and everything becomes the values of a closely held company, which we are just a small family, so that the values and everything of doing things right, producing the best you can do. I live by a motto, and I raise my kids that way, and I tell everybody else that I'm around, if you're not doing your best, the first person you're cheating is yourself. Look in the mirror, because that's the first person you're cheating. And then, we apply that a lot to ball playing and coaching and stuff too, because, if you're cheating yourself, then you're cheating your team.
Yep.
And so I always live with that principle to do the best you can, build the best you can. And I had a lot of people. I must be part salmon, because I swam upstream the whole time, because people told me, you won't, you can't, I shouldn't have made it. But good Lord's favor, and having faith and then sticking to your principles of doing things the right way, producing a high quality product, putting it in a good package, and then standing behind it. doing the best you can in those each one of those stages. That'll make you successful. It doesn't matter if it's building or whatever. I just think you know.
But was it your dad that was in the plumbing business?
Yes, my dad.
Because I remember you.
Yeah,
they wanted you to take over that.
They did. And you know, my heart was in the woods.
Yeah, that's why I was saying you followed your passion.
I really did.
But plumbing would have been especially now today, but back then it was still a good trade.
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of building, the incinerator, all that stuff, all that work that was done.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I would have fell right into that, but I, left. As a school boy, I mean, I remember when I was 14, that summer, got out of school, my dad took me to Crestview. It was Crestview Plumbing. And I worked in the warehouse doing stuff, loading trucks and just whatever, learning. And the next summer, I went down there as a 15-year-old. And then when you became 16, you could get out on the construction sites and stuff, So I thought the first day, this is, tying it in construction and work, with it. But, my dad and them was hard workers and definitely taught me a lot. But so I was in the plumbing trade. I mean, really, I was a journeyman pipe fitter, and welded and I did a lot of neat stuff. Learned a lot, because we did air conditioning work and all kind of plumbing, big stuff and little stuff. It didn't matter if you had to change out a toilet or if you had to install, build a whole hospital.
Right.
So we did all kinds of stuff, but I remember my first day on the job, and when I turned 16, I went down to work with Daddy after school got out in May and whatnot, and I went to work with Daddy then. And that first day we hung around. I had to fill out some papers and stuff at the shop, and then we got in the truck, and we were a little bit late getting out. Usually we're on that. You come in. We were out and on the job by 7.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I got in the truck and we stopped by the hardware store there. I forget what it was, one of the supply places, and got me a blue hard hat. And it's about the color of that Aquafina. It was one of them funny blues, I remember being so proud a little bit later when we put them ears on them so I could put that welding hood on, but got me a blue hard hat. I think I still have it, and pick and a shovel. I didn't know them were mine, but we get that hard hat out and and get back in the truck, throw that pick and shovel in the back and whatnot, and we drove on down, and it was a Super Value. The big Super, it was just a big old dirt field at the time, but that's when they were building Super Value. So you go back and figure out when that was, about 1977, 78, somewhere in there, probably 77. Anyway, we drove out through this dirt, just out in the midst, blazing hot and everything. And we got out, there's a big old machine out there, a big old excavator, and these pipe, that you could drive a truck in, I guess, just about it, And we got out there, and I thought, man, it's pretty cool. I'm the boss's son, and Daddy, we stopped, and he said, get your hard hat and get that shovel and pick off the back of the truck. Come on. And we got out, and Daddy was done, so I did and here I come walking up there and looked down in that ditch, and it was, it was so deep you couldn't see the teeth and eyes of the guys that was done down in there, And like I said, you learned a lot. I had to learn about dragging that box to keep the walls from caving in. But we were putting in storm sewer. You had to take soap and them big rubber gasket like things, and had to stretch them over and then that excavator, was digging a ditch, and then it would come back and
set a piece.
You'd pick them things up, and we'd have to push them up and make them hub up and everything. But anyway, he got out, and he said, he hollered down there to lead labor down in the ditch. He said, Joe, Yeah, I said, Mr. Jim. He said, it's my son, Mike. Teach him how to dig. Got in that truck and left. And I was like, but then I started learning. But I worked and worked hard. And, shoot, man, when summer was over, and it got 3-a-days football. It was like a vacation for me.
Yeah.
I was glad it's football 3-a-days to start.
What time frame in there was it that you started doing the calls and left plumbing? What?
Well, I started, this good old country word, tinkering. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got a basement or a wood shop stuff, that you tinker with stuff. And I started tinkering with calls, and I broke a call. The old call, I had a little plastic thing with a piece of slate in it, and it broke. And I don't know where I confiscated a piece of slate and did whatever I had to do. We didn't even have Dremels and stuff back then. I did whatever I had to do, and I got me a piece of slate and I glued it back in there. And I thought, well, that sounds better. I didn't realize what I was doing, really. I mean, you look back, hindsight's always 20/20, but that kind of started it, because then I started dabbling and playing with breaking some other ones, or trying to say, well, what if I built this, or what if I did that? So basically, the call building and tinkering and stuff started in my grandmama and granddaddy's basement. And then my daddy had a wood shop in his basement, and I would go up there and work there, and I'd work down my grandmama and granddaddy's basement. I still have the old Nylotron board that I started making mouth calls on, and I would take latex and clamp one side, and I had these marks on there, and I'd pull those latexes and clamp that side, and then I'd take a mouth call frame, slide it up on there, and took a piece of, some pliers and squeezed that and pulled the back tension. And I mean, I didn't really realize what I was doing, but I learned and started making some good calls. And then it was just a word of mouth. So I was probably 20, maybe. I might have been 20-ish right there, somewhere plus or minus one. I was 19, 20, 21, somewhere in there, probably when I was actually starting to tinker with it. And I'm 63 now, so that's a long time. But I got better at it,
Yeah. Well, obviously.
Yeah. I mean,
I got a lot better at it.
Figured out some good things,
Yeah, that was pretty neat, though, that at least you followed your passion and
went
the route you wanted to go. And
I think God's had his hand on me the whole way. I give him God gives us, and he takes, he gives and he takes away. I mean, he can open doors, close doors, if you just follow, though. And none of it's perfect. I get up every day thanking for another day and everything. But I think that, I was really enjoying the woods time, and Daddy never did understand, me wanting to be off and go in the woods. He was like, you need to be at work, boy.
Yeah.
And like I said, they were hard to work for, and they were hard working men.
Oh yeah. Well, guys our age and parents that's just where they brought it to you.
We still had. Yeah. I'm too soft on my boys now. But,
yeah. Well, you've learned. You have to kind of learn it, really, because you grew up that way too. I had to do it too. My son grew up and went off. Well, all my kids done things that I thought they should or could do something a little different, and you have to learn not to be so hard. I mean, I know people say times change, and things do, but the basics don't.
That's right. Basics is just doing the right thing.
Doing the right thing, letting God be involved in it, and that was good that you did do that, though, and led your passion.
Well, the way it really came about was I hurt my back. I think I probably hurt it a lot doing strength, not lifting and holding pipe or doing something that back pain or whatever, you just had to get through it. But being a young man that I was, I come home from work, and run out to the church parsonage and was cleaning the gutters out. Had a ladder and, had a couple boys that was playing ball for me or whatever. I think I was already, dabbling, coaching, doing stuff. And about 19, something like that. And I had a couple boys, and we run over to clean the church, the parsonage, the gutters out and everything. Come up a little shower, and, as I was getting down off the roof and everything, my foot slipped for the last 2 rungs. My foot slipped, and I felt that sharp twinge in my back, and it hurt. But but we got up and the tools and went on, did ladders, and then went on back, and then a bunch of us was meeting down at the Legion Hall, that field down there, and playing volleyball in the evening. We was just, kids, you got more energy than you got sense. And I went down there and, we started playing, and I kept trying to stretch. I said, boy, my back hurting. And finally, I'm out. I'm going, I didn't know what I'd done, but later that night, next day, I couldn't go. And took a good while to them, because I went to get x-rays and let the doctors look at me and everything, and they back pain. I didn't, again, hindsight 2020, they were looking for a bulging disc and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't have any bulging disc or anything. They couldn't, so they prescribed rest and all that kind of stuff. And of course, that just drove Daddy crazy, because you can't look at somebody and say your back's hurting. He just thought I was faking, just trying to get out of something. But I was, But took some time. They did shots and stuff, and took some time. And finally, I went to Dr. Bird down at Columbus, Houston Clinic, them good sports doctors down there, and they wound up doing a CAT scan, and come find out I had an imploded disc. And what that was doing is them little fibers in there was floating around in that spinal fluid, and then every now and then it'd get on that nerve, and it'd just light me up. It'd just cripple me, and I couldn't understand it. So they went in and did back surgery on me. So at that point, I had to do something different. I couldn't. Yeah. So all that time of sitting around, I had time to tinker and think and work on call, do stuff like that. So really, that's a lot of the basic behind the scene knowledge that nobody really knows, or had never been told really. But that's an odd thing too, Harold. I mean, I'm trying not to get too long down this rabbit hole right here, but because I couldn't do my pipe fitting trade and everything anymore, I might have been a little bit older than that, because I remember I started the apprenticeship program, and I was a topped out journeyman, and had that surgery and stuff. So I might have been more towards 22-ish, something like that. Cause
still real young.
Yeah, I mean, I was 17-year-old when I graduated high school. So in 5-year program, I've been about 22 maybe. And I had that back surgery. Well, because I couldn't continue in that path right there, that was hard work, and I had to, they offered me disability and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, I ain't disabled. I mean, I still got a mind, I got hands, I got, and they offered to put me in a, and I'm thankful, but I didn't do what they offered to set me up, and they was like, what's that? I said, what do you want? I said, well, I like building calls. I think I'd like to do that and everything, but they offered to put me on disability and set me up on, build me a shop, provide me the tools and everything. State was going to, because I was disabled. Yeah. And I said, I ain't disabled. I still got a mind. I still got hands, and I don't, looking back, maybe I should have took that deal, and I'd have sped myself up. But everything works out for a reason, and you learn it the hard way and the slow way and your way. And when you do all that, and you've got all that invested in it, you makes you a little more proud of it.
Yeah, it makes you a lot more proud of it.
You know, with y'all being both successful business owners, me and Harold have talked about his first job that he ever did, first building. Do you remember the first call you ever made that you sold to somebody that somebody bought from you?
I still see one every now and then, somebody that, I don't know, I talked them into, buying something from me because, I can remember doing them.
Yeah.
Just the first one or anything, probably not. But I still see some. Every now and then somebody will bring one around.
Yeah.
And it's still, the hands, I just signed them.
Yeah.
I started out was going to do country custom calls. And then I found out that an older gentleman had used the name Country Calls or something somewhere before, and I called his family, and he was deceased, and talked to them about, could I use that name? And I decided, well, I'm going to do Woodhaven Country Custom Call, and then I just dropped it to Woodhaven Custom Call.
Where did the Woodhaven come from?
Well, two factors here played in this. I always thought that the woods was my haven. I can remember laying off in them woods when you'd be either have a turkey dead or just trying to get one, or in between, or a deer. I mean, I can remember the first deer I killed with a bow, and I thought I was, Daniel Boone or something. But I just always chased them deer and turkey up in that national forest, and that was the hardwoods. But I learned how to hunt. Nowadays we got shooting houses, green fields, and all these nice game cameras and all that stuff. But I learned how to hunt, and learned how to hunt sign and do things the right way. But it's different, and I guess I kind of lost my train of thought. I was kind of on a train there, but you asked me what about but I'll see every now and then somebody will come bring one to me and say, hey, you remember this? And I'm like, man, yeah, I mean, that's crazy. But, I there again, as I started morphing into what I was becoming, I talked to Daddy. I said, Daddy, the first pot that I did, Daddy had an old motor and had a faceplate on it, and we bolted a piece of wood to it, and then I bolted another piece of wood to that piece of wood. I didn't know what to do, and had a old rusty Craftsman screwdriver, and I actually went over on the grinding wheel and got it sharp, and that was my lathe. I mean, I didn't know but I learned a lot. I got a little bit around some folks that knew some woodworking stuff. And of course, Daddy and him always done that stuff, and I can remember I was trying to tell Daddy, I said, I need a way to do this, and I can make these things more consistent and make them a little, I don't know if I was thinking faster or better, but my mind was, like I told you, I got that.
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur, in that spirit of trying to figure things out. And I was trying to come up with a way to take a Makita router, and all I needed to do was, I took plywood, and what I was trying to do was figure out that bit, where the edge of it was, and measure out to and then made me a circle out of plywood that I could take that thing, and next thing you know, I was cutting circles out of a piece of walnut or whatever I was, and I started figuring. So then I had somebody make me some out of aluminum and stuff, and learned a lot of different processes, and bought a tool here and a tool there. I remember buying a drill press, a nice, of course, back in the day, Craftsman Sears and Roebuck was still down, and I'd go down there and I'd try to save money and scrap here and there, and, but I bought a big old drill press, and I figured out to get me a Forstner bit, and then had a guy weld me some carbide teeth on the side of it, so that when I drilled that down into that piece of walnut. At the time, my walnut was all I knew to use. It was just, that was the wood of choice, and to make a pot call out of. And I would drill down in there, and then that carbide teeth that we welded on that thing, modified it, made the slate bed. So when I got to my ending point, I had my depth, and then I had that slate bed carved out at the top. And of course, walnut, it ripped a bunch, and I had to learn a lot of flying parts and pieces. I'm glad I still got all my hands and eyes and teeth and fingers and stuff.
It still must be pretty cool to this day, calling in a turkey with a call that you made it, you designed it,
Yeah, a lot of folks talk about that factor, especially guys that's just doing it truly as a hobby. I mean, this was a hobby for me that became a business. And I don't think I ever thought about it that way.
Really?
I think a lot of guys do. I hear people talking about, hey, it was cool. I built this car, went in my shop, and I turned me a pot on it and bought a piece of slate or whatever. There's a lot of people out there now that's doing parts, building parts. And in fact, backstory here too, when I got to the crossroads of figuring out I wanted to be in the business, I had to try. Mm-hmm. I got to a point that I had to take this from a hobby and try to go at it and make something of it. And, one of the crossroads for me was I was trying to decide then, did I want to make components? Did I just want to make cups for other people or in mouth calls for other, or whatever? Or did I want to make my own name, legacy, whatever you want? I didn't know it was a legacy at the time. Didn't know what it was going to be.
Right.
That was a crossroads for me because I had to figure that out. And I decided to do what I did. And one of the turning points for me was the Cherry Classic Crystal. That call is still, to this day, nobody was doing anything but with walnut. And Bill Zarian of Cody Calls up in Pennsylvania was doing a laminated, I don't know exactly what it does. Ain't mind of my business. I ain't never took another call apart to figure out what to do, with what I did. But he was doing a laminated pot. I don't know what he was, but I don't know if he was just laminating the layers and glue and whatnot. Like I said, I've seen a lot and learned a lot because there were some companies up in the north, and Fibron was one, and they made that, they called it Packer wood, Pakka, I think it was, but it was the laminated wood, diamond wood type stuff that we know now. If you see the layers of different colors of wood and it's put together, some is called Stratobond, which ain't nothing but colored plywood, really. Layers of, it's not as dense. And but then they had phenolic resins and stuff that they would impregnate this stuff with. Well, I went up there, I got in touch with, and got up there, made friends with them, and spent some time up there in their building, learning processes of what we did. So I got to see a lot of that process there, of how they had these big boiler-looking things, and they would put they'd have this veneers, and then they would dye them, and you basically took these layers of veneer and you put it in that chamber and then pulled a vacuum on it, and that made that fiber swell up. It looked weird, when it was pulled, because wood is fibrous, and then they would flood it with the resin and stuff, and that would impregnate, and so you basically had wood that was holding a hard plastic bond. Yeah. All right. So then, when that would come out, we would take those sheets and they would cure, and they'd heat cure and everything and dry, and then you did layup. You'd take, like if you was gonna make a standard color, it was hazelnut or something, whatever. You took a walnut color one and then a chestnut colored one and then a natural and then another walnut, and then you stacked it up and you got it to a certain thickness. and then you took that stuff and you put it under two big old iron that was a car press, like in their company. I mean, it was just a big old hydraulic and these hot irons. So with just pressure and heat, temperature and pressure, when you applied that, then all that stuff bonded together.
That's pretty
and
cool.
It made a very, very dense product. And, then so we started making some cups and they actually made, was making like drumsticks and stuff and that gave me the, idea. We started making strikers out of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that was another one of them game changers, man. I mean, that stuff was hard and it was good. And Fibron was the first one I knew to do it. And then Rutland Plywood out of Vermont, they did it. Fibron went out of business, and Rutland came into the picture, and they made the true diamond wood. Rutland called their wood diamond wood, and people can look this up. But a lot of people now use the word diamond wood loosely. The Rutland plant burned in the middle of my building career, as it became a company, and I was just buying. Man, I was robbing Peter to pay Paul. I had a family and a business trying to grow. I'm trying to buy diapers and formula and wood and trying to do. I was trying to survive. If I hadn't been for my mom and daddy and grandparents and people that just believed me and helped me, make ends meet, and I wouldn't have made it. But so I've got a lot to be thankful for. But that Fibron went out. Rutland was making some wood, and they got real good at it, and it was called diamond wood. For whatever reason, that's what they called it. So diamond wood became the standard. That's what was being taught in the industry. My shipment of wood for my year was sitting on the dock, because I stayed in touch with them. I was trying to make sure I was counting my pennies, that I had my money to pay for my load of wood I had to get to make my strikers, my deer barrels, my classic deer grunt. I was making them barrels out of that. Crow call and a hawk call was what I was making out of. I wasn't making pots. But that company burned with my yearly quota on the dock. It caught on fire and burned, and they thought they had it put out. Caught back fire during the night and burned completely to the ground. So there I am without. So the next day I get wind that they burned down and everything. So I got on the horn and I started calling pool cue suppliers and anybody that might have some true diamond wood. And I bought I had some in my reserve. And then I bought everything I could get my hands on. And when I got it, I did it predominantly just thinking about my strikers. And I wish, man, when Fibron went out, they had a warehouse wall full of every diameter and every kind of color and length of dowels, and some was just still big planks of, I wish I'd have had the money and the sense to have bought all they had, because that was some really good stuff too. Yeah. But they, so when I got that, I immediately took it and made all the strikers I could make out of that wood. So I own a pretty good supply still of true diamond wood, and I put a logo on it so I know that it was true diamond wood, because then and now there's a company out of Maine, I forget what they're called now, but anyway, it's called Diamond Lux. They just basically, Rutland decided not to go back into business, and this company out of Maine started Cousineau, I think is the name of it. Anyway, they started making, and basically they hired some of the chemists and everything that worked at Rutland to come over, and so now it took them some time, but now their wood is
pretty close to
it. They pretty much made diamond wood, but it's called Diamond Lux. But a lot of folks will use that term loosely about diamond wood. Yeah. They ain't much diamond wood. There's Diamond Lux out there now, but I do own quite a number of strikers
that's pretty cool.
That I have. Yeah, that people knew. But anyway, back to, and we need to move on, I know, but that cherry, classic crystal.
Nobody's using it, were they?
Nobody was using cherry, and I was trying to form my footsteps and my path and my trying to, I'm out there trying to find something to be different and grinding against the everybody telling me you can't, you won't, everybody trying to kill me, not giving me the breaks, the big guys, on top of me. I can remember, there was 5 or 6 of them, Primos, HS Strut, Night in Hell, Mad. There was 5 or 6 big old dogs up there, and I wanted to be like that. And then, I was started in the little custom call, you buy a $50. I remember Michael Spivey and he was selling stuff for raffle tickets for NWTF. We went over to that Birmingham show one time, long time ago, and we split a table, and I was just peddling calls, mouth calls that I'd made and pot calls and stuff, and but so I was just in the custom call world, wanting to be like the big dogs, the production guys, but I wanted to take custom quality, put it in a real good package, and back it with good customer service. And so I became a hybrid. I stepped out there in the middle of it, and boy, I did get the dark shot at me, because I had people mad at me on the left and mad at me on the right. Them big boys couldn't compete with my...
Yeah. You wasn't just a maker now, you was a maker and a seller.
Yeah, I was trying to make a business. So I got some breaks along the way. I mean, Night and Hell called me and got me to build them that 30th, I think it was their 30th anniversary set for them. I actually made the cups and laser engraved, things along the way. I remember I bought that first laser engraver because I started out signing with just a Sharpie and putting polyurethane. I mean, I sprayed a lot of calls in my bathtub. That was my first spray booth, and so then I did me a little outbuilding to do spraying outside, and just little things along the way. But I wanted to be classier, so I looked into laser engraving. I wanted to laser engrave my name into the stuff, the wood stuff I was building, and anyway, I started experimenting with cherry, and then I got the cut right, and then I was trying to think, well, I'm going to make the inside is called the soundboard or biscuit, we just call it a biscuit. And, the first biscuit material I made, thin wood, I was trying to figure out, did it need to be it basically needs to be an 1/8 stick. Y'all welcome. I just gave you, I cut a lot of.
We can edit that out.
Yeah. But
1/4 inch.
Yeah. 3/16. But, the first thin wood that I did like that I remember, I think it was 88 maybe, 87. I built a call, and basically I just took a sander and just kept sanding me, and then I just cut I don't remember. It might have been a hole saw I was using, or jigs. I was just cutting and then sanding and doing what I had to do. And, but, it was just straight grain, regular piece of wood. And I was gluing them inside those and then putting the tops in them and everything. Of course, I've learned a ton about glues and tolerances. Everything about a call matters, the dimensions and everything, because I'm basically making a musical instrument. Yeah. My mind is working. I'm wanting to sound like, I want to make that sound. What have I got to do to make that sound? Just not make a sound. I want to make that sound. And so I've just figured out some things. But anyway, I figured out, because those things were warping like crazy inside of them, and that was terrible. And I found out, I started doing a little thinking, and figured out that quarter sawn wood would not warp like that. So I got some quarter sawn cherry, and that's how. And then that cherry, and then I got my formula right. Whether you know this or not, crystal, glass, and all this material, glass material, there's formulas for that stuff. How much silica, how much heat, how much all this kind of stuff goes on, to making different types of, there's a gazillion types of glass and glues and everything. I've met and experimented. I've met with more companies and experiment, but I got my formula right on, a guy gave me a tip on a type of crystal. And I got that, and then did that, and man, I knew I had something. But then I had some guys that was on up to some pros. It was on up the ladder that I'd kind of become elbow rubbers with, and I said, hey, try this. And man, I knew then that I was on something.
Once they liked it.
That call to this day, we build more of them each year. And a call generally has a call life of popularity and everything about 3 to 5 years, and it's just man, that call is so good. It's the standard. It is a true standard of the industry. The Cherry Classic Crystal, anyways, there's so many things that we could stay on stuff. I can talk all this day long about where I came from and where
Well, it is a very, very interesting story coming out of from where you started at, and then you went off and followed your passion.
Well, I actually went to college in there too. I actually went to college when I hurt my back. So I did decide to go the route of going back to school later. And I wasn't just 17, 18-year-old. I could have played, college ball. I had an offer to play college ball at North Alabama. And could have followed a coach that I'd had in high school up there, but I didn't want to do no 10-page double-space report. I just couldn't do it.
I just finished one of those a couple weeks ago.
So I just didn't want to do that, so I stayed with but I went to college, and again, things work out for reasons. Because inside it, I wanted to be a civil engineer. I was good at being in the outdoors, and my woodsmanship, helped me in being in the civil engineering deal. So I was going to go do that, and I went to school and got to Auburn, and as a junior, Alabama Power picked me up, and I started co-oping with them, and I started thinking, well, man, I got it. My woodsmanship hurt me because I was good at it. They could put me in the woods, and I could find corners, and I had the nose to figure things out, and I was a good worker, but I was supposed to work a quarter and go back to school and work a quarter. Next thing you know, I was working, and we got a big project. Can you stay with and I wound up getting off track, and then I truly just but anyway, that there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot. And you start tapping into how things happen. You asked me 15 minutes ago, and I'll close this one off. You asked me about where did Woodhaven come from, and I said, well, I used to lay in the back on my, and I think, well, the woods is my haven, man. This is my and then for whatever reason, my mom and dad, where my mom still lives now, they built a house, and they had to bulldoze, a road back in there. I remember clearing it. I was, young man. We cleared it with a hatchet and burned brush, and built that house in there. And I was a young man, and they named that road Woodhaven Drive.
It goes good together.
Yeah, and the Durhams, Arthur and I forget his wife, they went to church with us at New Harmony, and the Durhams was elderly couple, and mom and dad, they had a piece of property on top of it, and they had to get right away through them and everything, which they did. I remember old Mr. Arthur Durham, he'd I guess they're here, but he'd always ask us kids, you want a block of gum? Piece of gum, they called it. You want a block of gum? He'd be at church, and we'd always want him to give us a block of gum. But they asked mom and dad if they would change. They wanted a road named in their name, and would they change the name? And so mom and dad, of course, and so that became Durham Drive, and they took the Woodhaven Drive sign down, and it sat in my room for all them years. And then one day I said, Woodhaven.
If that ain't meant to be,
That's
I don't.
meant to be.
That's a cool story.
People don't hear all them.
How you got the name Woodhaven? It was in your room the whole time.
Yeah,
That's pretty.
Growing up,
pretty neat.
I still got that sign. It's actually sitting in that over Isaac's
Really?
desk right now at the shop in the studio. That sign, I took it to him and put it over his desk. I said that. You need to keep,
Yeah, hang on.
It's time to pass it on. I'm trying to pass things on along, pass things on.
Well, I watched one when we came on our little tour with my little class that I was in, I walked by, and I've heard them before because I watched them in high school, the Hunting Public.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked by a box, and there's a ton of boxes
PHP
engraved. It says the Hunting Public. And I was like, these people buy from here. That's pretty neat. Like
we build them for them. We're partners with
didn't
them.
know. And so then I go to YouTube. Sure enough, you was teaching one of the guys how to do a turkey call and all this kind of stuff, what it sound like. And then Isaac was talking about the places y'all sell to, Bass Pro Shops.
Cabela's Academy.
Yeah, Cabela's Academy. Y'all partnered with the Hunting Public. Like, that's some pretty cool.
Again, blessed.
Yeah, in Heflin, Alabama, like in a shop behind another shop that sells everything really, but nothing really.
Right.
They have everything that it's just cool.
You asked me a question earlier about did I have that good feeling about, or it's a good feeling when something that your hands has built and you called up a turkey and killed it with it and everything. And I told you I don't really know that I felt that or whatever or realized that, but I'll tell you this, and a lot of other people have relayed this to me, just like you guys walking up to me, but especially when we started doing that Bass Pro Cabela's thing. Mm-hmm. It was a good feeling. And I do remember walking in there and seeing my package on that wall. And then as we grew and everything, and people would see, man, I saw your stuff down at Bass Pro or whatever. That make you that legitimizes. That's a big word for a countryman like me.
All your hard work.
Yeah, you're not a bastard product no more. You are legitimate.
You have arrived.
You have arrived. When you hit that, people trust that the Bass Pro Cabela's brand, and they think that they know that products are vetted to be there, and that's true. Yeah. And you have to earn your way there. And in I think it was 2018, I went out there. They called me and told me they wanted to have a meeting with me. I go out there for the sales meetings, and I'd go and we talk and what's working, what ain't working, or whatever. And I just built and grown, and usually those meetings are an hour long. You're in there ready to talk to the sales guys. They come in at 11:59. Your meeting starts at 12, and they're walking out the door at 1. And they called me and said, hey, we want to have an extended meeting with you. And I was like, well, that's fine with me, as long as you won't. It cost me the same $2,500 to fly out there and stay in a hotel and fly back, So, and it was a good feeling because from that day on, really my meetings and my things there changed because and they let me know that I had arrived. And I don't feel any different, but it made me feel good because they said, look, man, we don't understand you. And I said, you're not going to, because I'm about quality, God, faith, and I'm about my family. I mean, y'all are good guys, but business model wise, y'all are trying to, so, but they said, look, man, you've hit numbers that we've never seen any turkey call manufacturer do. Yeah, so so they let me know that I kind of owned that category right there, and I just said, I'm not going to allow myself to not continue to do my best and to continue to do what I'm doing. I'm nothing, but I'm going to continue to work hard and do what we got to do. I said, at that point though, I was able to start being more friends and more my intellect and my knowledge, they took me more serious.
Yeah.
And I was able to get a dialogue with them and say, look, guys, because you don't tell them how to do their job. But I said, if you'll listen to me right here, we've got a red wash mouth call, and we got a cherry classic crystal, and we got a cherry real hen box. We got some things that you need to have more pegs of.
Yeah.
And
just pop out.
Yeah. Well, what happens is, their computers, made a model stock and say they need 12 red wasps. That's our number one mouth call. Things kill more turkeys and, but anyway, it's a great mouth call. But their computer would put 12 on a peg. And I said, look, it's that good. Your buddies the guys on the floor, if they ain't getting them themselves, they're calling their buddies, hey man, Woodhavens are in. You know, they're, hold me these, hold me that. So I said, what happened is your 12 is gone, just like that. All right, then that guy's got to come by with that little scan gun in the evening and scan, well, that's right here's out of stock. And they'll put that little out of stock, and then it takes 10 days to 2 weeks for y'all's replenishment system to get them 12 more there. And the same thing. Hey, man, there's some red wash here. And they're gone. And I said, you're sitting there with 12 on a peg. Turkey season, 6 weeks or whatever, you know, long, wherever you're at. It's a volatile season. I said, that peg's empty more days than it's full. I said, if you put 3 or 4 or 5, you know, put that model stock to be 36 or 40 and don't let them run out. I said, you'll sell more. But, you know, I remember that day, you know, I said, well, and I appreciate what you're telling me, and I'm going to continue to earn my stripes. I said, you do your job, I'll do mine.
Yeah, let them believe it was their idea.
And, you know, and it worked. I mean, you know, so we started growing, and we've continued to grow there. But, I mean, that's our biggest outlet.
There's that sense of pride, too, like the Harold talks about. When you're building something and it's got your name or it's tied to you, it don't matter if it's your 15th building, if it's your 50th, 1,000th call for the year. You want that one to be the same quality as.
I can say that out of Harold, about, you know, in y'all's company, you know, the Forsyth company. And I mean, you know, when I see it, I think of Harold, but I think of quality, and I think of what y'all do. And it's no different. It doesn't matter what you do. Do it to the best of your ability. Right. God-given ability. Do it right. Look the man in the mirror.
Yep.
I know you got a meeting here in just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But I could step out if we're not done. But one of the things that he did have on his list was advice or something you would give to young people entering any trade or any craft or anything like that. And you know, it's hard when you've had your own. I've done the same thing really in my business, you know.
You got to have faith. You got to have faith in the Lord, one, faith in yourself, you know. And it helps to have a granddaddy or somebody that's going to say, hey, sport, sometimes you just need somebody to hold a hand to you.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice to have that. So it's nice to have mentors. But I think that my advice has been, since we started talking, if you're a ditch digger, be the best dang ditch digger there ever was.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a wallpaper man, be the best wallpaper man there ever was. Yeah. Don't settle for something less than your best.
That's right.
And, you know, there's always better. Get up tomorrow, thank the good Lord for another day, and go do it better.
I've heard people say this, and I cannot stand it when I hear it. But they'll say, well, that's not my job description, or I don't get paid to do that.
Yeah, it drives me insane,
that tells you all you need to know about an individual.
About that person.
Yep.
It's not my job, or I'm not going to do it, and you know, those are the kind of people that I don't need in my life.
I don't either, and I don't need them in my business, and I won't have them in my
business.
business.
You know, people, you know, I've had, you know, a couple guys inside my realm of what I do, because I don't, you know, once I remember my first employee, I mean, I had to realize that my hands couldn't plane every board, drill every hole, make every, you know, I had to train people, and I had to trust people to help to carry that. But it's my heart and my integrity, my name and my pride. It's on everything that goes in. And I've had the guy say, this ain't rocket science. We're just making a turkey call. And I said, that's where you're wrong. Yeah. We're making the best. We're making a Woodhaven, and we're going to make it the Woodhaven way. And if you can't do it my way, you know, and then they try to throw it back on me and say, well, if you're just going to try to be a dictator, you know, this thing, we're not going to grow. Yeah. And I said, well, we must have done something
made it
right.
this far.
Yeah, we might, you know, but I'm not going to allow you to tear down what I've built.
Yep, that's right. You have to stand firm on it. Yeah. I get told all the time I'm probably the worst salesman by these guys that sell corporate, like you talking about, you know, and they have corporate ways, corporate studies, corporate things. That drives me nuts.
Yep.
Drives me nuts.
I'm not built that way, and that's one thing I'm not good at. I'm not good at, you know, numbers and taxes and accounting and all that other stuff. I just know how to build the best turkey call that I can build, and you know, I have to let other people do their job.
Well, we just want to build and give a good quality. That's the thing. Because there's an old saying, in construction, you're only as good as your last job.
That's right.
And you really are. It doesn't matter. We've been in business 26 years. But if we go off and do something wrong or something's not right, doesn't look good, your reputation changes quick.
That's it. Word of mouth. And that's how, when I started Woodhaven, I didn't have money. So I didn't have money for marketing. What money I did, I had to put it in my product.
Yeah.
All right. So you had big corporations that was marketing, throwing a lot of money into marketing, and their product suffered. Yep. Well, so they got known quicker, and they was out there selling a bunch of parts and pieces, and I was just chugging along. But I didn't have money for marketing, but my marketing was word of mouth. People calling and getting another one and and I remember a pride factor back to something, I can remember hearing people telling their buddy, just get you a Woodhaven. Mm-hmm. Just get you a Woodhaven, and then people tell me, hey man, it don't matter. There's 12 on that peg. It don't matter if I get the first one, the 6th one, the 12th one, they're the same.
Yep.
And that makes a big difference. Got one for you though. Batman and Robin. Riddle me this. In baseball, what's the most important base?
Shoot. Well, you can either say first base because you got to get to it, or home plate because you got to have runs. So, I don't know.
But to get home, you got to cross second and third.
I'm philosophizing here now, because I used to coach a lot of football, basketball, baseball. I coached a lot of kids. I enjoyed it. You come up with your own philosophies and things as you do that too. And my point in baseball, my point was, at what point do you become a hitter? Do you become a runner? At the time you're through. We've made this. We're in this batter's box, and we're here to bat and to hit. So we're trying to do our job, get our hit. But the minute you get to hit that ball, you become a runner.
Yeah.
Y'all better be like Peter wrote it on the rock. You better write this one down, because you don't get this philosophy every day. The most important base is the next one.
Yeah.
You got home plate, but you got to do your job. You got to become a runner. You got to do the best you can, run as hard as you can to beat that. You got to get to first.
And you can't skip none of them.
And then you got to get to second. And then you got to get to third. And you got to get back home. The most important base is the next one.
Yeah,
that's you building. You most important building is the one you just finished, but it's the next one.
Yeah.
And that's with me with my calls and stuff, doing it right and doing it. It's that next call, because that next one, that's why you said you watched them. We test calls and everything, the pot calls, the box calls, all the procedures we go through, and we call there. We don't just build. If I yielded on every call I built, well, man, I'd be
doing all right.
Doing all right, yeah. But you got to realize I only put in that package what's good enough for my standard, and that means that you get that and you get that. I mean, you can go to the, I've had guys in testimony right now, that they went to a Bass Pro, picked up a slate call or whatever, and went and won competitions with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the kind of quality I want to be.
Yeah.
Well, I do plan on, I don't know if I'll get me a call just because I wouldn't be the best caller.
You don't have to be.
But I'm gonna get me one of the mic hats, the bottom land mic hats.
Yeah,
those things are unique.
That's been one.
I'm gonna get me one for this hunting season.
Well, with turkey calling, you just have to start, because you'll continue for years and years and years, learn and get better.
Hey, simplest thing in turkey, the main thing that they do is cluck, purr, yelp. You hear about yelp, 3-note yelp.
Yep.
Each call has a start and an end, so it's got to be crisp. It's not, no. You ain't got bubble gum in your mouth. It needs to be, it's got sharp beginning, sharp ending. Good point to remember. And then simple cluck. My thing is, if you can cluck with your mouth call, or you slate or you box, be the best dang clucker you can be.
Yep.
If you can cluck and kill him. Don't do nothing. You ain't got to do
I may
nothing.
have to try to be a clucker.
Be the best dang clucker you can be. Because I'm gonna tell you what, if you call conservatively, be in the right place, and just cluck and kill him. I mean, my gosh, that's
still a turkey on the ground.
Cluck and purr pot, still the deadliest thing. That and that finisher I was telling y'all about earlier. Soft calling has killed a lot more turkeys than all the loud calling. I love to hear one gobble and come in and call to him and do all that fancy stuff and key and all that stuff, but you ain't got to have that to kill a turkey. If you got it in your arsenal and you're good at it.
Yeah.
But here's my thing: when I sound bad at something, if you could cluck and purr or something good, then do that, because you may yelp or kiki and it sound terrible. But
Yeah.
Be good at a few things, not average at
There you
all
go.
the things.
Well, I've got to run, Mike, but I've enjoyed you coming and speaking
Heck,
with us.
I tell you,
well, it's outdoors and building. A lot of builders and everything. Because I was in the building trades too, not just the plumbing, but there for a while I was selling lumber and everything, and my builders. Were friends, and that's too. I had a hobby that I was trying to, and they all wanted to hunt with me, and I'd show them calls stuff. But I've been around the building trades all my life, and it's just a lot of times the building guys are the hunting guys.
Yeah, a lot of them are. Yeah.
But I appreciate being invited to come down. Harold, I know we've been friends for a long time, and. I got to get these young boys. I guess I'm going to take them hunting. I'm going to take this and hunting, and take your boy hunting.
I'd be fine. You call it, you kill it. You just let me watch. Sit back there and be quiet.
I've had some folks say that, but I'd just soon be behind you and let you. Yeah,
I might miss it.
When you feel that, you're doing
I
something
might
right.
miss it. I was
The day you lose that, go to the house.
short little story, just real quick. I know we're wrapping things up. I was hunting last year and had a bunch of turkeys come in my deer field, and a deer was coming right behind the turkeys, and it was a doe. And my brother's hunting with me, and he's seen turkeys before, and he's seen deer. He hunts in Eufaula a lot, and he looks over at me, and I'm going,
Yeah.
He said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I can't move, man."
Yeah,
It got me.
Yes, that's a good feeling.
It still does. It is.
It shakes you up,
exciting.
man.
It is. But
the day you lose that, go to the house.
But if you want a good quality, great quality turkey call, deer call, any kind of call that they sell is going to be a good quality. I toured the facilities. I know that they try them out, and I know they care about what they do. Go to Woodhaven Custom Calls, and they sell some pretty cool hats. Get you something from there.
Got to have some merch.
Yeah,
man.
got to have some merch.
Right here in Cleveland County, Heflin, Alabama, too. So.
Yeah.
And one last shout out. I met him a few weeks ago. He's become a pretty cool dude, and he's going to be my friend one day. Shout out to Isaac Pentecost. All right.
Oh, smooth.